graph below shows the number of international students enrolling in Australian universities from 2000 to 2020. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant.
The line graph illustrates the number of international students enrolling in Australian universities over a 20-year period, from 2000 to 2020. Overall, there was a substantial increase in enrollments throughout the given period, with a particularly sharp rise observed between 2010 and 2020. Although fluctuations were present in certain years, the overall trajectory remained upward. In 2000, the number of international students stood at approximately 50,000. This figure experienced a gradual increase until 2010, after which enrollments surged dramatically, reaching nearly 250,000 in 2020. The most significant acceleration occurred between 2015 and 2020, where numbers escalated from around 150,000 to a peak of 250,000. Despite minor declines in 2003 and 2012, the general trend was overwhelmingly positive, indicating Australia's growing appeal as a higher education destination. Some people believe that universities should focus more on practical skills rather than theoretical knowledge. To what extent do you agree or disagree?
In today's rapidly evolving job market, the debate over whether universities should prioritize practical skills over theoretical knowledge remains highly contentious. While some argue that hands-on experience is essential for career readiness, I firmly believe that a balanced approach, integrating both theoretical foundations and practical applications, is the most effective strategy. On the one hand, an emphasis on practical skills can equip students with the hands-on experience required in the professional world. Many industries, particularly those in technology and healthcare, demand workers who can immediately apply their skills in real-world scenarios. For instance, medical students benefit immensely from clinical practice, as it allows them to translate textbook knowledge into patient care. Similarly, engineering students who engage in laboratory experiments gain a deeper understanding of scientific concepts, making them more competent professionals upon graduation. On the other hand, theoretical knowledge remains indispensable in shaping critical thinking and problem-solving abilities. A strong academic foundation enables individuals to adapt to industry changes and innovate within their fields. For example, software developers who understand the underlying principles of algorithms and data structures are more capable of devising new solutions rather than merely applying existing techniques. Moreover, professions such as law and academia rely heavily on theoretical comprehension, which serves as the bedrock for advanced research and policy development. In conclusion, while practical skills are undoubtedly crucial for employability, disregarding theoretical knowledge would be short-sighted. The most effective educational model is one that seamlessly integrates both elements, ensuring that graduates are not only job-ready but also intellectually equipped to navigate an ever-changing world. The bar chart below shows the percentage of adults in different age groups who used the internet between 2003 and 2006 in a particular country. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The bar chart illustrates the proportion of adults across various age groups who accessed the internet from 2003 to 2006 in a specific country. Overall, internet usage was significantly higher among younger age groups, particularly those aged 16 to 44, whereas the older demographic exhibited relatively low engagement with online activities. Notably, while internet penetration increased across all age brackets, the most substantial growth was observed among middle-aged adults. In 2003, approximately 80% of individuals aged 16-24 used the internet, a figure that remained relatively stable throughout the period. Similarly, those aged 25-44 demonstrated high engagement, with internet usage rising marginally from around 50% in 2003 to nearly 60% in 2006. Conversely, internet adoption among individuals aged 45 and above was considerably lower. In 2003, fewer than 30% of people aged 45-54 accessed the internet, but this figure rose steadily to just above 40% by 2006. The most dramatic increase occurred in the 55-64 age group, where usage nearly doubled from 15% in 2003 to around 30% in 2006. Meanwhile, those aged 65 and above exhibited minimal engagement, with less than 10% using the internet throughout the period. In conclusion, younger individuals consistently had the highest internet usage rates, whereas older age groups saw a gradual increase, albeit at a significantly lower level. Some people believe that advertising has a strong influence on a person's buying behavior, while others argue that people ignore advertisements because of the sheer volume of ads they see. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. Advertising plays a pivotal role in modern consumer culture, influencing purchasing decisions in various ways. While some assert that advertisements exert a significant impact on consumer behavior, others contend that people have become desensitized due to the overwhelming number of ads they encounter daily. This essay will explore both perspectives before presenting my own view. On the one hand, it is undeniable that advertising has a powerful effect on consumer choices. Companies invest substantial resources in market research to craft compelling advertisements that appeal to human psychology. Persuasive techniques such as emotional appeal, celebrity endorsements, and strategic branding cultivate a strong association between products and consumer desires. For instance, luxury brands leverage aspirational marketing to create an image of exclusivity, making their products more desirable. Additionally, online advertising, driven by sophisticated algorithms, ensures that individuals are repeatedly exposed to tailored ads, thereby increasing the likelihood of purchase. On the other hand, many argue that consumers have become increasingly immune to advertising due to its ubiquity. With advertisements appearing across television, social media, billboards, and websites, individuals often perceive them as intrusive and deliberately ignore them. This phenomenon, known as ad fatigue, has led many to install ad blockers or simply skip commercials. Furthermore, skepticism towards advertisements has grown, as consumers recognize that marketing strategies often exaggerate product benefits. A prime example is the beauty industry, where digitally enhanced advertisements frequently set unrealistic expectations, leading to distrust among consumers. In my view, while advertising undoubtedly influences purchasing decisions, its effectiveness depends on various factors, including the medium, audience, and marketing approach. While some individuals may be easily swayed by well-crafted advertisements, others are more discerning and base their purchasing decisions on personal research and recommendations rather than marketing tactics. Ultimately, advertising remains a significant force in shaping consumer behavior, but its impact is not universally uniform. The diagram below shows how plastic bottles are recycled. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The diagram illustrates the various stages involved in the recycling process of plastic bottles, from collection to the production of new plastic goods. Overall, the process consists of 9 distinct steps, beginning with the disposal of used plastic bottles and culminating in the manufacturing of new products. The cycle ensures that discarded plastic is efficiently repurposed, thereby reducing environmental waste. The process commences when used plastic bottles are discarded into designated recycling bins. These are subsequently collected by specialized trucks and transported to a recycling facility, where they undergo sorting. At this stage, non-recyclable materials are removed, and only plastic items proceed to the next step. Following this, the sorted plastic bottles are compressed into large blocks to facilitate handling and transportation. These blocks are then fed into a shredding machine, which breaks them down into small plastic fragments. These fragments are thoroughly cleaned before being melted and transformed into raw plastic pellets. The final stage of the process involves the manufacturing of new plastic products, such as clothing, containers, and reusable bottles. These newly produced goods eventually re-enter the consumer cycle, ensuring the sustainability of plastic usage. In summary, plastic bottle recycling is a multi-stage process that significantly reduces waste by converting used materials into new products, thereby promoting environmental sustainability. Nowadays, more people prefer to socialize online rather than meet in person. Why do you think this is the case? Is this a positive or negative development? The increasing preference for online socialization over face-to-face interactions is a significant shift in modern communication. This essay will explore the reasons behind this trend and evaluate whether it is a positive or negative development. One key factor contributing to the rise of online socialization is convenience. Digital platforms enable individuals to connect instantly, regardless of geographical barriers. With the advent of social media, messaging apps, and video calls, people can maintain relationships without the need for physical presence. Additionally, the fast-paced nature of modern life leaves little time for in-person meetings, making virtual communication a more practical alternative. For instance, professionals with demanding work schedules often resort to online interactions as a means of staying connected with friends and family. While online socialization offers undeniable benefits, its long-term implications raise concerns. On the positive side, it allows individuals to expand their social circles, fostering global connections that were previously impossible. Moreover, introverted individuals or those with social anxiety may find online communication more comfortable, enabling them to engage in conversations without pressure. However, the excessive reliance on virtual interactions can be detrimental to real-life relationships. Face-to-face communication plays a crucial role in developing empathy, emotional intelligence, and interpersonal skills, qualities that are often compromised in digital conversations. Furthermore, studies have shown that prolonged social media use can lead to feelings of loneliness and social isolation, as digital interactions lack the depth and authenticity of in-person encounters. In conclusion, the preference for online socialization stems from its unparalleled convenience and accessibility. While it has facilitated global connectivity, it should not entirely replace face-to-face interactions, as doing so may have adverse effects on social and emotional well-being. A balanced approach, where digital communication complements rather than replaces real-world interactions, would be the most beneficial outcome. The pie charts below show the proportion of energy produced from different sources in a country in 1990 and 2010. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The two pie charts illustrate the percentage of energy generated from 5 different sources in a country in 1990 and 2010. Overall, while oil remained the dominant source of energy in both years, its proportion decreased significantly. In contrast, renewable energy sources, particularly natural gas and nuclear power, experienced notable increases. In 1990, oil accounted for the largest share of energy production at 42%, but this figure dropped considerably to 33% in 2010. Similarly, coal contributed 27% in 1990, but declined slightly to 25% in 2010. Meanwhile, natural gas usage increased from 13% to 20% over the 2 decades. Nuclear power, which made up only 4% in 1990, witnessed a threefold rise to 12% in 2010, indicating a shift towards alternative energy sources. Renewable energy, including solar and wind, accounted for just 2% in 1990, but saw moderate growth to 10% in 2010. This suggests a growing emphasis on sustainable energy sources over the 20-year period. In conclusion, while fossil fuels continued to dominate energy production in 2010, there was a noticeable shift towards cleaner and more sustainable energy sources. The table below shows the average number of hours spent on different leisure activities per week by people in 3 age groups. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The table compares the average number of hours spent per week on 5 different leisure activities among 3 age groups. Overall, older individuals tend to spend more time on passive activities, such as watching television and reading, whereas younger age groups engage more in socializing and outdoor sports. Watching TV is the most time-consuming activity across all age groups, with the hours increasing progressively from 10 hours among 18 to 25-year-olds to 20 hours for those aged 46 and above. A similar pattern is observed in reading, where older individuals dedicate more time, 8 hours, compared to younger adults, 5 hours. Conversely, younger individuals are more engaged in outdoor activities and socializing. People aged 18-25 spend 12 hours per week socializing and 8 hours on outdoor sports, whereas those aged 46 and above allocate only 4 hours and 3 hours, respectively, to these activities. Internet usage follows a declining trend with age, with younger individuals spending 15 hours online compared to just 5 hours for the oldest group. In summary, younger individuals are more active and social, while older age groups prefer more sedentary pastimes. The bar chart below shows the number of tourists visiting 3 different countries in 2018, while the pie chart illustrates the proportion of tourists from 5 regions. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The bar chart displays the number of international tourists visiting 3 countries in 2018, while the pie chart illustrates the distribution of these tourists by region. Overall, Country A received the highest number of visitors while Country C attracted the least. Meanwhile, Europe contributed the largest share of tourists, whereas Africa accounted for the smallest proportion. Country A was the most popular destination, attracting 15 million visitors, followed by Country B with 12 million. In contrast, Country C had significantly fewer visitors, at only 7 million. The pie chart reveals that the majority of tourists originated from Europe, comprising 45% of the total. Asia and North America followed with 25% and 15% respectively. Meanwhile, South America accounted for 10%, and Africa contributed the smallest share at just 5%. In conclusion, while Country A was the most visited destination, European travelers dominated the tourist demographic. The maps below show the changes in a small town between 2000 and 2020. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The two maps illustrate the transformations that occurred in a small town between 2000 and 2020. Overall, the town experienced significant urbanization, with the expansion of residential areas, infrastructure improvements, and the introduction of recreational facilities. In 2000, the town was relatively underdeveloped, with a large green area in the north and a single main road running through the center. By 2020, this green space had been largely replaced by a residential complex, reflecting a rise in housing demand. Additionally, a shopping center was constructed in the southeastern part of the town, replacing several small shops. Infrastructure also improved during this period. The single-lane road was expanded into a dual carriageway, facilitating smoother traffic flow. Furthermore, a railway line was introduced along the western side of the town, connecting it to neighboring areas. Another notable change was the construction of a park and a sports center in the southern part of the town, replacing what was previously an open field. This suggests a shift toward providing better recreational facilities for residents. In summary, the town saw a substantial transformation, with urban expansion, transportation upgrades, and increased recreational amenities, making it a more developed and modernized area by 2020. The line graph below shows the percentage of households with internet access in 3 countries from 2000 to 2020, while the table provides data on the average monthly internet expenditure in these countries in 2020. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The line graph illustrates the proportion of households with internet access in 3 countries from 2000 to 2020, while the table presents the average monthly expenditure on internet services in these countries in 2020. Overall, internet access increased dramatically in all 3 countries over the period, with Country A consistently having the highest percentage of connected households. Meanwhile, in 2020, Country B recorded the highest average monthly expenditure on internet services. In 2000, internet penetration was relatively low in all 3 countries, with Country A having around 15% of households connected, followed by Country B and Country C at approximately 10% and 5%, respectively. However, internet access rose steadily, and by 2010, the proportion had exceeded 50% in all 3 nations. By 2020, nearly all households in Country A, 98%, and Country B, 95%, were connected, while Country C lagged slightly behind at 88%. The table reveals that in 2020, Country B had the highest average internet expenditure at $50 per month, followed by Country A at $45 and Country C at $38. This suggests that despite having slightly lower internet penetration, Country B had the most expensive internet services. In conclusion, while internet accessibility improved significantly in all 3 countries, Country A maintained the highest proportion of connected households, whereas Country B had the highest internet costs. The maps below show the layout of a coastal town in 1995 and the present day. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The 2 maps illustrate the changes in a coastal town between 1995 and the present day, highlighting urban expansion and infrastructure developments. Overall, the town has undergone significant modernization, with the replacement of natural landscapes by commercial and residential areas. The most notable changes include the construction of recreational facilities, additional housing, and the transformation of farmland into a golf course. In 1995, the town primarily consisted of residential houses concentrated in the east, a large farmland area in the north, and a forest park in the southwest. A single main road connected all these areas. By the present day, both the farmland and forest park have been removed, making way for a golf course and a tennis court, indicating a shift towards leisure-oriented infrastructure. Another major development is the expansion of housing. Several new residential buildings have been constructed, particularly in the southeastern part of the town. In addition, a new ring road now encircles the residential area, improving connectivity. Commercial expansion is also evident. Previously, the western coastline had a fishing port, which has now been removed. In its place, a large group of hotels and restaurants has been developed, catering to the growing tourism industry. Furthermore, a new car park has been built near the hotels, making the town more accessible to visitors. In summary, the coastal town has been extensively modernized, with a stronger focus on tourism, residential expansion, and recreational amenities, replacing its previous agricultural and natural features. The line graph shows the number of people visiting 3 museums from 2000 to 2020. The table provides data on the average time spent by visitors in each museum in 2020, while the pie chart illustrates visitor satisfaction levels in the same year. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The line graph presents the annual number of visitors to 3 museums over a 20-year period, while the table and pie chart provide information on visitor engagement and satisfaction levels in 2020. Overall, Museum A attracted the highest number of visitors throughout the period, while Museum C experienced the most significant growth. Additionally, in 2020, visitors spent the longest time in Museum C, and satisfaction levels varied significantly across the 3 institutions. According to the line graph, Museum A consistently had the highest number of visitors, starting at 500,000 in 2000 and peaking at 900,000 in 2015, before declining slightly to 850,000 in 2020. Museum B, in contrast, had a fluctuating trend, with visitor numbers hovering around 400,000 to 500,000 throughout the period. Meanwhile, Museum C saw a remarkable increase in popularity, rising from just 200,000 in 2000 to 750,000 in 2020. The table reveals that in 2020, visitors spent the longest time in Museum C, averaging 2 hours per visit compared to 8 hours in Museum A and 5 hours in Museum B. This suggests that Museum C may have introduced more engaging exhibits or interactive experiences. The pie chart indicates that visitor satisfaction levels varied among the 3 museums. Museum C had the highest proportion of very satisfied visitors, 45%, while Museum A had 35% in this category. Museum B, on the other hand, had the lowest satisfaction levels, with only 20% of visitors rating their experience as very satisfied, and a higher proportion of dissatisfied visitors compared to the others. In conclusion, while Museum A remained the most popular, Museum C gained substantial traction over time and had the most satisfied visitors. Museum B, despite stable visitor numbers, appeared to struggle in terms of engagement and satisfaction. The flowchart below illustrates the process of producing paper from recycled materials. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The flowchart demonstrates the various stages involved in the production of recycled paper, beginning with the collection of used paper and ending with the creation of new sheets. Overall, the process consists of 6 main stages, involving sorting, cleaning, and pressing, all of which are necessary to transform discarded paper into reusable material. The process begins with the collection of used paper, which is gathered from recycling bins and businesses. This paper is then transported to a processing facility, where it is sorted manually to separate recyclable materials from contaminants. Once sorted, the paper is shredded into small pieces and mixed with water to create a slurry-like pulp. This pulp then undergoes a chemical treatment process where ink and other impurities are removed through filtration. The purified pulp is then pressed into thin sheets using rollers, after which it is dried and smoothed to enhance its texture. In the final stage, the sheets of paper are cut and packaged, ready to be distributed for consumer use. The entire cycle ensures that waste paper is repurposed efficiently, reducing environmental impact. In conclusion, the recycling process involves multiple steps, from collection and purification to the final production of usable paper, demonstrating a sustainable approach to resource management. The scatterplot below shows the correlation between the number of study hours per week and students' exam scores in a university course. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The scatterplot illustrates the relationship between the number of hours students spend studying per week and their exam scores. Overall, there is a positive correlation between study time and academic performance, meaning that students who dedicate more hours to studying tend to achieve higher scores. However, some variation exists, suggesting that other factors may also influence results. Students who studied less than 5 hours per week generally scored below 50%, indicating that minimal study time was associated with poor performance. In contrast, those who dedicated 10 to 15 hours per week achieved scores ranging from 70% to 90%, suggesting that this is an optimal range for strong academic outcomes. Interestingly, some students who studied over 20 hours per week still received scores between 60% and 80%, showing that excessive study does not necessarily guarantee top performance. This could imply diminishing returns, where additional study hours provide limited benefits beyond a certain point. In conclusion, while increased study time is generally linked to higher exam scores, other variables, such as study methods or individual aptitude, may also play a role in determining academic success. The line graph below predicts the population growth of 3 cities from 2020 to 2040. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The line graph presents the projected population growth of 3 cities, City A, City B, and City C, over a 20-year period from 2020 to 2040. Overall, City A is expected to experience the most significant growth, while City B will see a steady but moderate increase. In contrast, City C is projected to witness a decline in population. In 2020, City A had a population of 2 million, slightly higher than City B, 1.8 million, and significantly larger than City C, 1.2 million. By 2030, City A's population is expected to surge to 3.5 million, continuing its upward trajectory to 5 million by 2040. This marks the most substantial growth among the 3 cities. City B is projected to grow at a more gradual pace, reaching 2.5 million by 2040. While this represents an increase, it is significantly slower compared to City A. Conversely, City C is forecasted to experience a population decline, dropping from 1.2 million in 2020 to just 900,000 by 2040. This downward trend suggests possible economic challenges or migration patterns affecting its demographic stability. In conclusion, while cities A and B will see population expansion, City C is likely to shrink. These trends indicate varying economic and social developments among the 3 cities. The line graph below shows the stock market index performance of 3 major companies from 2010 to 2020. The table provides data on the average annual growth rate of these stocks during the same period. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The line graph illustrates the stock market performance of 3 companies: Company A, Company B, and Company C between 2010 and 2020, while the table presents their average annual growth rates over the same period. Overall, Company A experienced the most dramatic increase in stock value, while Company B displayed steady but modest growth. Meanwhile, Company C underwent fluctuations, ultimately ending with a decline in stock price. In 2010, all 3 companies had similar stock prices, ranging between $50 and $60 per share. Over the next 5 years, Company A saw a sharp rise, reaching $150 per share by 2015 and continuing its upward trajectory to $300 by 2020. The table confirms this strong performance, indicating an average annual growth rate of 15%. Conversely, Company B exhibited a more gradual but stable increase, growing from $55 per share in 2010 to $120 in 2020, with an average annual growth rate of 6%. This suggests consistent yet modest financial expansion. In contrast, Company C faced instability. Initially rising to $90 per share in 2015, It then declined to $40 by 2020, showing an average annual decrease of 5%. This negative trend suggests financial struggles or market instability affecting the company. In summary, while Company A experienced exponential growth and Company B showed stable increases, Company C encountered volatility and an overall decline in stock performance. The bar chart below presents the projected GDP growth rates for 5 major economies from 2025 to 2035. The table shows the expected GDP per capita for these countries in 2035. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. The bar chart displays the projected GDP growth rates of 5 major economies between 2025 and 2035, while the table provides estimated GDP per capita for the same countries in 2035. Overall, emerging economies such as Country A and Country B are expected to experience the highest GDP growth rates, whereas developed economies like Country D and Country E are predicted to expand at a slower pace. Despite this, developed nations will still maintain the highest GDP per capita. Country A is projected to experience the most significant economic expansion, with an annual GDP growth rate of 6.5%, followed closely by Country B at 5.8%. These figures suggest rapid industrialization and economic development. In contrast, Country C is forecasted to grow at a moderate pace of 3.2%, while countries D and E are expected to grow at a sluggish rate of 1.8% and 1.5%, respectively. Despite slower GDP growth, countries D and E will continue to have the highest GDP per capita, reaching $75,000 and $68,000 per person, respectively, by 2035. Meanwhile, countries A and B, despite their rapid growth, will have a GDP per capita of $30,000 and $25,000, indicating that their economic expansion is driven by a lower base. In conclusion, while emerging economies will experience faster economic growth, developed countries will retain significantly higher GDP per capita, reflecting their established financial stability.